Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Show, 2022 NFL Draft Recap Show. We go over every team's draft. I give them a grade, and I share who I think was the best pick. Not from just the best player standpoint, but the value standpoint more so than best player. In some cases, it may cancel one out when it comes to some certain teams and their selections. So first up is the Arizona Cardinals. They had an interesting draft. They didn't pick until the second round because they acquired Marquise Brown from the Ravens as they shipped their first round pick to Baltimore. So their second round pick was Trey McBride, the tight end out of Colorado State. In the third round, they selected Cameron Thomas, the defensive end out of San Diego State, and Myjai Sanders, the defensive end out of Cincinnati. In the sixth round, they went with Keontae Ingram, the running back out of USC, and Letitia Smith, the guard out of Virginia Tech. And then the seventh round, they went with Christian Matthew, the corner out of Valdosta State, Jesse Letka, the linebacker out of Penn State, and Marquise Hayes, the guard out of Oklahoma. So their needs before the draft, I felt, were defensive end, wide receiver, corner, and interior offensive line. There's a few reasons why I gave them the specific grade of a B. I would have kept the pick and drafted a edge rusher at that selection. And maybe you could have got a receiver with the later pick, like maybe in the second round or whatever. But the case for doing the thing with Hollywood Brown, maybe you don't double down on defensive end. You take a corner in the third round instead of a corner that I didn't have in my top 280. And then they got a depth player with Letitia Smith in the interior of their offensive line. So therefore, I give the Cardinals a B grade. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. Interesting draft. In the first round, pick number 8, Drake London, wideout out of USC. Second round, pick 38, Arnold Agabite, defensive end, Penn State. Also in the second round, Troy Anderson, the linebacker out of Montana State. Third round, Desmond Ridder, the quarterback from Cincinnati. D'Angelo Malone, the linebacker out of Western Kentucky. In the fifth round, running back Tyler Allinger out of BYU. In the sixth round, Justin Schaefer, the guard out of Georgia. And John Fitzpatrick, the tight end from Georgia. So in terms of needs for Atlanta, they got a potential quarterback of the future in Desmond Ridder. Wide receiver they addressed in the first round. Running back, they got somebody that I thought they got as a steal with Allinger. Defensive end, I like Agabite. He's a solid player. Linebacker, Troy Anderson. Some folks were high on him. And they failed to address the safety position. So, for a grade for the Atlanta Falcons, I give them a B+. I was tempted to say A-, but I felt that the safety position should have been addressed. Maybe in the third round. I like Allinger. He could really be a surprising rookie that could have an impact for them down the road. So I'm going to give them a B+ just because of the miss of safety, or else I would have given them an A. And then plus they picked somebody outside of my top 280. The Baltimore Ravens are an interesting team come 2022. We talked about the we'll go over those picks in a second here as I pull it up. In the first round with the 14th pick, they went with Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. In the second round, the first round, at the end of the first round, Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa. The second round, they took David Ajabo, the linebacker out of Michigan. Third round, Travis Jones, the defensive tackle out of UConn. A ton of fourth round picks. Daniel Falale out of Minnesota, the lineman. Jalen O'More Davis, the corner out of Alabama. Charlie Kolar, the tight end out of Iowa State. Jordan Stout, the punter from Penn State. Isaiah Likely, the tight end from Coastal Carolina. And Demarion Williams, the corner out of Houston. And then a sixth-round pick with Tyler Body out of Missouri. So, interesting stuff here. The Ravens with a ton of picks. Wide receiver. They literally have 0 wide receivers after the trading of Hollywood Brown. Yeah, they got some nice value. But, I'm sorry. You need to still replace them. Interior of the line. Love the Linderbaum pick. Defensive tackle, Travis Jones, nice player. Linebacker, I like Ajabo, but he's on the outside. They needed somebody for the inside. And then safety, they got a steal with Hamilton. So if I had to make a grade for the Ravens, I'm sorry. I have to say B-. I know everyone's lauding them for what they got in the Antonio Brown trade, but they didn't replace them. And guess what? They also took a freaking punter in the 4th round. Guess what? Use undrafted free agency and unrestricted free agency to sign a punter. Don't waste a 4th round pick on a punter. You use those later picks for depth pieces and diamonds in the rough. Not punters and kickers or long snappers. I've said this on the podcast way too many times. So, B- because they got some stuff back for Hollywood Brown, but they failed to replace him, and they also took a punter in the 4th round. All right, next up, the Buffalo Bills. The prohibitive AFC's favorites going into next year. In the 1st round, they took Khair Alam, the corner out of Florida. 2nd round, James Cook, the running back out of Georgia. The 3rd round, Terrell Bernard, linebacker from Baylor. 5th round, Khalil Shakir, the wideout from Boise. 6th round, Matt Ariaza, the punter from San Diego State. 6th, Christian Benford, the corner out of Villanova. 209 in the 6th round, Luke Tenuta, the tackle from Virginia Tech. In the 7th round, Balin Spector, the linebacker from Clemson. Buffalo, offensive tackle. They got Tenuta, depth piece. Defensive tackle, failed to address. Corner, I love the Alam pick. That was excellent. And then linebacker, Bernard. Not a bad selection. But I felt like it was a little bit of a reach. So for a grade for the Bills, I hate to say this, but I'm giving them a C+. The Alam pick was nice, but I even felt that was sort of reachy as well, although many teams are high on him. So Buffalo gets a C+. They failed to address a few needs, and they've reached for some players. All right, next up is the Carolina Panthers, who have had an interesting draft, to say the least. A lot of speculation around that team this weekend. 1st round, they took Ikemba Kwanu, the tackle from NC State. 3rd round, Matt Corral, the quarterback from Ole Miss. 4th round, linebacker Brandon Smith from Penn State. 6th round, Amare Barno, the linebacker from Virginia Tech. And Cade Mays, the guard from Tennessee. And in the 7th round, they went with Kalen Barnes, the corner out of Baylor. So for needs, quarterback, potential quarterback of the future with Corral, we'll see. Tackle, love Kwanu, great pick. Interior, they got a depth piece with Cade Mays, the guard. You have linebackers a need. They drafted 2 of them in Brandon Smith and Amare Barno. And then they also needed a safety, and they took a corner, which is okay, I guess. So for the Panthers, some things I really didn't like that they did. But that's pretty good that they waited to the third round to take Corral. So Carolina gets my first A of the draft of grades. I'm going to put a minus next to them because they could have gotten a safety. Brandon Smith's an interesting player. Linebacker out of Penn State. They took him in the fourth round. I had him as a fourth round player. Barno, really interesting as well. That was a steal for them, I felt. Mays from Tennessee. That was a nice pick. In the sixth round, although I had him as a seventh round grade. And then Barnes from Baylor. I felt was a fifth round player they got in the seventh round. So A minus for the Carolina Panthers here, who I thought had a really nice draft. Next up is the Chicago Bears. They had an interesting draft. They did not have a first round selection, which was a borderline disaster, although it might work out in the long run. Second round, they took Kyler Gordon, the corner out of Washington, and Jaquan Brisker, the safety from Penn State. In the third round, they took Velus Jones Jr., the wideout from Tennessee. Fifth round, they took Braxton Jones, the tackle out of Southern Utah, and Dominique Robinson, the defensive end out of Miami of Ohio. Zachary Thomas led off their picks in the sixth round, the tackle from San Diego State. Tristan Ebner, the running back from Baylor. And Doug Kramer, the center from Illinois. And in the seventh round, Jatire Carter, the tackle from Southern. Elijah Hicks, the safety from Cal. And Trenton Gill, the punter from NC State. Again, with the freaking punters nonsense. I hate the teams that do that. Wide receiver, they took Velus Jones. Maybe could start for them. I feel that they could have gotten receiver in the second round and felt that they were better players on the board for Chicago to take there. They also could have used another tight end to go with the youngster they have on their team. Tackle Braxton Jones. They took him in the fourth round. I'm sorry, the fifth round. And I had him as an undrafted type of player. They also needed interior of their line, which some of these guys I can move around, I guess. Defensive tackle, didn't get one. Corner, I like the Gordon pick. And then a safety, Elijah Hicks. I don't even think I had him in my top 280, which is not great. So, a grade for the Bears, C minus. Addressing some big needs, failed to address some needs. Not having a pick in the first round certainly hurt them in this draft, I felt like. Okay, next up is the Cincinnati Bengals, who made the Super Bowl a year ago, or not a year ago, but this past season. First round, they took Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan. Second round, Cam Taylor-Britt, the corner from Nebraska. Third round, Zachary Carter, defensive tackle from Florida. Fourth round, Cordell Volson, the tackle out of North Dakota State. Fifth round, Tyson Anderson, the safety from Toledo. In the seventh round, Jeffany Gutner, defensive end from Coastal Carolina. In terms of needs, tight end to replace CJ Iswano in free agency. Didn't get it. Fail. Offensive tackle. Failed to address. They really feel great Oh, no, they took Cordell Volson. Never mind. They also needed linebacker help. Didn't address. And corner, they took Cam Taylor-Britt, who there's teams that like Cam Taylor-Britt, and I didn't mind that selection by them either. So, in terms of a grade for Cincy, I have to give them a C. A couple big needs were failed to address. I thought that they reached on a couple players. Volson, they took in the 4th round. I had him as an edge, like an end of the 6th round type of player, so that was a reach. So I'm giving Cincy a C. Next up is the Cleveland Browns, their division rival. So they didn't have a pick until round 3. And the first player they took was Martin Emerson, the corner out of Mississippi State. Then they took defensive end Alex Wright out of UAB. And then they took David Bell, the wideout from Purdue. 4th round, they took Perion Winfrey, the defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. That was a good pick at that spot. And they also took Cade York, the kicker from LSU. So stupid of a pick. So stupid. 5th round, Jerome Ford, the running back from Cincinnati. 6th round, Michael Woods, the second wideout from Oklahoma. 7th round, Isaiah Thomas, the defensive end from Oklahoma. And Dawson Deaton, the center from Texas Tech. In terms of team needs, safety, no, fail. Linebacker, fail. Wide receiver, they took Bell. I like Bell a lot. And the defensive tackle, they took Winfrey, who is a solid player at that spot. The Browns are getting a C, though. They failed to address some big needs. They reached for Alex Wright. They failed to address linebacker, and they took a kicker in the 4th round, which is unacceptable. They deserve a C. And the reason why it's a C is because they stole 2 players in Bell and the tackle from Oklahoma. Next up is a very interesting team, the Dallas Cowboys, who are always interesting. In terms of their draft, 1st round they took Tyler Smith, the tackle from Tulsa. 2nd round they took Sam Williams, the defensive end from Ole Miss. 3rd round, Jalen Tolbert, the wideout from South Alabama. The 4th round, Jay Ferguson, the tight end from Wisconsin. 5th round, Matt Wilzetko, tackle from North Dakota. Deron Bland, corner from Fresno State. Demonte Clark, linebacker from LSU. Damone Clark. And defensive tackle John Ridgway from Arkansas. And in the 6th round, they took linebacker Devin Harper from Oklahoma State. In terms of needs, wide receiver, they took Tolbert, who I like. And the issue there was that he should have been a day 3 pick, not a day 2 pick. Tight end. I like Fergie a lot. And he put up some productive stats in Wisconsin. He was drafted in the right round, I thought. Also, they could have used a tackle, Tyler Smith. Arguably a reach at that spot. Interior of the line, they did not address. Defensive tackle, Ridgway, that's interesting because I had him in my top 280, but the problem was that I had him as a 7th round pick. He went in the 5th round. And then they also needed a linebacker. They took a couple, Clark out of LSU and Harper from Oklahoma State. And Clark, I had as a 7th round pick. ranking, he went in the 5th. And then Harper was not even in my top 280. So for Dallas, this is going to be my 4th consecutive C grade handed out. And my 3rd consecutive real C. And it's because they missed on some needs. That's a problem. And they reached for a lot of guys as well. I'm being very hard with my draft grades this year. Next up is the Denver Broncos, who didn't have that many needs or that many picks for that matter. And it's interesting because the Russell Wilson trade really took a huge chunk out of their future assets. But it'll probably be worth it because Russell Wilson's still good. In the 2nd round, they took Nick Bonito, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. Oh, outside linebacker. In the 3rd round, they took Greg Dulwich, the tight end, out of UCLA, which I thought was a great pick. In the 4th round, they took Damari Mathis, the corner out of Pitt, and Ayoma Uwazurki, the defenseman out of Iowa State. 5th round, Delarin Turner-Yell, the safety from Oklahoma. Montrell Washington, the wideout from Stanford. And Luke Wattenberg, the center out of Washington. 6th round, they took Matt Henningsen, the defensive end from Wisconsin. And the 7th round, they took his teammate, Faion Hicks, the corner from Wisconsin. Needs. Denver, to me, only had 2 pressing needs coming into the draft. Defensive tackle, they did not address. And linebacker, they consider Nick Bonino one, but that's an outside linebacker rather than an inside linebacker. But they still got Russell Wilson, and they did get some players I think could help them this year and down the road. So Denver's getting a C+. They didn't hit on major needs, but they did get players that I think could help them, so they cancels each other out. Next up is the Detroit Lions, who I felt had an interesting draft. Could have gone in several different directions. 1st round, they took Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan, and also trade up for Jamison Williams, the wideout from Alabama. 2nd round, Josh Pascal, defensive end from Kentucky. 3rd round, Kirby Joseph, the safety from Illinois. 5th round, James Mitchell, the tight end from Virginia Tech. 6th round, Malcolm Rodriguez, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. And James Houston, the 4th, the linebacker from Jackson State. And 7th round, they went with Chase Lucas, the corner from Arizona State. In terms of needs, Detroit may or may not have addressed a few of them. They did not take a quarterback, which is surprising, not great. I guess they're trying to tank and go all in next year for Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. Wide receiver, they went with Jamison Williams. That's a hit. They did not address the interior of their defensive line. Defensive end, they hit it with Hutchinson, obviously. Pascal's not bad either. He could start for them, too. Interior of the line, they did not address either. And linebacker, they got a few of them in the drafts with Malcolm Rodriguez, who I felt was a 7th round pick that went in the 6th round. And then James Houston, who I had as a UDFA possibility. I get it. Williams coming up and getting him was a steal. They had a Hutchinson who fell into their laps after after Jacksonville decided to go with Trayvon Walker. they failed to address some major needs. But because of those 2 first-round picks, they're getting the same grade as Denver, a C+. Like I said, I'm being really tough on these gradings this year. And Detroit really didn't impress me much after their first 2 picks. Next up is the Green Bay Packers, who obviously had an interesting draft. So in the first round, they had 2 picks. Quay Walker, the linebacker from Georgia, and Devontae Wyatt, the defensive end from Georgia. In the second round, they took Christian Watson, the wideout from North Dakota State. Third round, Sean Bryant, the tackle from UCLA. Fourth round, Romeo Doubs, the wideout from Nevada. And Zach Tom, the center from Wake. The fifth round, Kingsley Anagbari, the linebacker from South Carolina. And the seventh round, Tariq Carpenter, the safety from Georgia Tech. Jonathan Ford, the nose tackle from Miami. Rasheed Walker, the offensive tackle from Penn State. And Samori Toure, the wideout from Nebraska. Christian Watson's going to start for them right away. They got a first-round talent, arguably in the second round. Interior line, they did not address that. They got a couple tackles, though. Defensive end, I really like Wyatt. He could start for them. And linebacker, I really like Quay Walker. They drafted him as an inside linebacker, but Walker could start on the outside too, which makes him a really versatile player. But for Green Bay, it's just stunning that they didn't take a wide receiver in the first round. I'm giving out the third consecutive C+ here. Watson, they got who I felt was a round 2 pick in the second round. They trade up for him. But they could have traded up to get Treylon Burks or somebody like that. I mean, it was unfortunate that Washington reached for Jahan Dotson, because if he fell to 23, fine, wonderful. But he didn't. So that combined with missing on a couple of needs, such as the interior linebacker, which they may consider Walker as, and an interior line which they missed on, and combined they didn't take a receiver in the first round. Watson, not saying is a bad pick in the second round, but they could have traded up for somebody. But it's not their fault that the Washington Commanders reached for Jahan Dotson either. So Green Bay, for me, gets a C+. Okay, next up is the Houston Texans, who I felt had a very interesting draft. They had 2 first-round picks. Third overall with Derek Stingley Jr., the corner from LSU. They went with their second first-rounder. They traded down and took Kenyon Green, the guard, out of Texas A&M. In the second round, they took safety Jalen Petre from Baylor and John Mechie III, the wideout from Alabama. Third round, they took Christian Harris, the linebacker from Alabama. Fourth round, they took Damian Pierce, the running back from Florida. Fifth round, Thomas Booker, defensive tackle from Stanford, and Tegan Quintioriano, the tight end from Oregon. In the sixth round, they took Austin DeLucis, the tackle from LSU. In terms of needs, I had running back down. Pierce, he's an interesting player. I had Pierce as a 5th round pick. So day 3, but maybe 1 round too early for Pierce. They also had a need. They've pretty much everywhere except for quarterback. Wide receiver, Mechie's going to start for them. I like him a lot. Tight end, the kid from Oregon, I did not have in my top 280. That's a problem, even though it was a 5th rounder. I like Kenyon Green. Decolis from A&M was not in my top 280. He's just a depth piece. They did not address defensive end. Booker from Stanford was 104 in my rankings. They got him at 150. That was a good pick. Linebacker, I love Christian Harris. Love him. And love that they got him where they got him at. Derek Stingley's going to come in and start right away. And Petrie, kind of a reach, but they could have got him later. They could have got Mechie with 37 and maybe Petrie at 44 if they wanted to. Or whatever. So they had a lot of picks. They took advantage. So I'm going to give the Houston Texans a solid grade of a B+. The no edge rusher thing really bothers me. But that's just about it. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts, their division rival. They had an interesting draft. No first-round pick because of the Carson Wentz trade. That was a disaster. Second round, they went Alec Pierce, the wideout from Cincinnati. Third round, they have Jelani Woods, the tight end from Virginia. They also took Bernard Raymond, the tackle from Central Michigan, and Nick Cross, the safety from Maryland. Fifth round, Eric Johnson, the tackle from Missouri State. Sixth round, Andrew Ogletree, the tight end from Youngstown State. Curtis Brooks, the defensive tackle from Cincinnati. And the seventh round, they went with Rodney Thomas II, the safety out of Yale. They took a ton of players that were not in my top 280, which is an issue. So wide receiver, Pierce, I felt was a reach by Indy. But I guess he could fit in. Jelani Woods, I thought was an excellent pick as well. At tight end, they didn't take a guard, which is okay, I guess. Defensive end, they didn't take an edge rusher. That's an issue. And then safety, I like the Nick Cross pick a lot. So the Colts did some things that I really liked in the draft that they missed on a couple needs. So therefore, my grade for the Indianapolis Colts will be a B-. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that owned the number 1 overall pick in the draft and took Trayvon Walker, the defensive end from Georgia, trades back into the first round against Stephen Lloyd, the linebacker of Utah. Third round, Luke Fortner, the center from Kentucky. And they also took Chad Muma, the linebacker from Wyoming. Fifth round, Snoop Connor, the running back from Ole Miss. That's a fun name in the draft. Sixth round, Gregory Jr., the corner from Achita Baptist. And seventh round corner, Montrake Brown, the corner from Arkansas. So there's a lot of guys that they took that were interesting. So in terms of needs that the Jags had going into the draft, wide receiver did not address. Tight end did not address. Tackle did not address. From a depth standpoint, I mean that. Interior, love Luke Fortner, good pick. Interior defense, failed to address. Defensive end, the number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker. But there you had better options. Linebacker, Lloyd and Muma, not bad. Corner, Gregory Jr., I felt was a reach. And Brown, I did not even have in my top 280. The Jaguars are getting a C. They should have taken Hutchinson or Thibodeau at 1, but they didn't. They took Walker. There are some guys they reached for, like Connor Jr. and Brown. Fortner I like, so the good outweighs the bad. or they outweigh each other. So therefore Jacksonville ends up the state. And oh yeah, they took the wrong guy at 1, I think. But I could be wrong for all what we know. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs, who had an interesting draft. In the first round, they took Trent McDuffie, the corner from Washington. They traded up for him. And they also took George Karlaftis, the defensive end from Purdue. Second round, they took Sky Moore, the wideout from Western Michigan, and Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati. Third round, they took Leo Chenal, the linebacker from Wisconsin. Fourth round, Joshua Williams, the corner from Fayetteville State. Fifth round, Darian Kennard, the tackle from Kentucky. In the seventh round, Jalen Watson, the corner from Washington State. Isaiah Pacheco, the running back from Rutgers. And Nazee Johnson, the safety from Marshall. Needs. Wide receiver, I like Sky Moore a lot. He was 68th on my board. But I had him as a round 3 pick rather than a round 2 pick. They also need a edge rusher going into the draft. Love Karlaftis. He's going to start for them potentially. Interior defensive line did not address. Linebacker Chenal, great pick in the third round in the compensatory section. Corner, love McDuffie. He'll start for them. And the safety, Brian Cook, they took. And I felt was a reach at where they got him. And they also took Nazee Johnson, who I did not have in my top 280. Chiefs, as a grade, will get a B. They reached for the safeties. The wideout they could have gotten earlier, but the fact that they got McDuffie and Karlaftis with those 2 picks, they can start for them. Their greater need is arguably on the defensive side of the ball rather than wide receiver. So I understand those 2 picks. But I like Sky Moore too. So I'll give them their respect and give them a solid grade of a B. Next up is the Las Vegas Raiders, their division rivals, who did not have a pick until the third round of the draft. So in the third round, they took Dylan Parham, the guard from Memphis. Round 4, they took Zamir White, the running back from Georgia, and Neil Farrell, the defensive tackle from LSU. Round 5, Matthew Butler, the defensive tackle from Tennessee. And round 7, Thayer Munford, the guard from Ohio State, and Britton Brown, the running back from UCLA. Needs. Wide receiver. They did not take one. I felt that they needed more depth behind Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. It's like for a depth perspective. Tackle. On the offensive line, they did not go there. They went interior, though, with some of their picks, which is good. They needed that. Butler, in the interior of their defensive line, I had him as a 5th-round selection, and they took him in round 5, so that was a good pick for them. Also, they needed a corner, which they did not address. So, for a grade for the Las Vegas Raiders, I will give the Las Vegas Raiders a B+. You notice I've only given one A-letter grade out, now it's to Carolina, but that's because I'm judging harder this year. So B+ for the Raiders, covered most of their needs, and got a couple steals along the road. So B+ for Vegas. Next up, division rival, the Los Angeles Chargers, who are arguably the best team in this division, regardless of what they did in the draft. First round, they took Zion Johnson, the guard out of Boston College. Third round, J.T. Woods, the safety from Baylor. Fourth round, Isaiah Spiller, the running back from A&M. Fifth round, Atio Agbonia, the defensive tackle from UCLA. Sixth round, Jamare Saylor, the guard from Georgia. And Jasir Taylor, the corner from Wake. And the seventh round, Dean Leonard, the corner from Ole Miss. And Xander Horvath, the fullback from Purdue. LA did not have many needs. Wide receiver from a depth standpoint did not address. Tackle, they went interior instead, which that's okay. Defensive tackle, they went the kid from UCLA who I had 103 in my rankings, and he was picked 160, so good pick for LA right there. And then at linebacker, I felt like they needed a linebacker, but they did not address that. I had high hopes for the Chargers in this draft, so they could put like a jugular and put themselves right there with the Bills among the teams to beat in the AFC. But they didn't. But they really weren't under a lot of pressure to do anything anyway in this draft. So, in terms of a grade, I'll give them a B. They got a couple steals, and they got a few of solid players along the way, so I'm going to give them a B for a draft grade. The Rams, their in-building rival Rams. So they didn't have a pick until the third round. They went with Logan Bruss, the guard from Washington. Fourth round, they went to Kobe Durant, the corner from South Carolina State. Fifth round, they went Kyren Williams, running back from Notre Dame. Sixth round, Quentin Lake, the safety from UCLA. And Darion Kendrick, the corner from Georgia. Seventh round, Daniel Hardy, the linebacker from Montana State. Russ Yeast, the safety from Kansas State. And A.J. Arcery, the tackle from Michigan State. In terms of needs for the Rams, tackle, they went with Arcery, who I did not have in my top 280. They also, I wrote linebacker for them. Hardy is an interesting player. I did not have him in my top 280 either. And they also, I had now needed interior defensive line as like a potential long-term guy in case Aaron Donald's not there long-term. But they got guys who I like and guys that I think could contribute within the next several years. Because of a couple missed positions and whatnot, I have to give the Rams an unfortunate grade of a C. I understand they just won the Super Bowl, so I got to give them some benefit of the doubt. I like Kyren Williams a lot. I think that could be their best rookie going into this upcoming season. He was a 5th-round pick that should have been a 4th-round pick. So my grade for the Rams will be a C. A very interesting team in 2022 will be the Miami Dolphins. They did not have a pick in either rounds 1 or 2. Round 3, they took Channing Tindall, the linebacker from Georgia. In the 4th round, they took Eric Ezukanma, the wideout from Texas Tech. 7th round, they went with Cameron Good, the linebacker from Cal, and Skylar Thompson, the quarterback from Kansas State. Running back was, I felt, a need for them. They did not hit that in terms of like a building block guy. As a comp, that was an interesting wide receiver. They took him in the 4th round. I had them as a 6th round pick. He went in the 4th. I thought that was a little reachy. And the other need I felt for Miami was linebacker. And I love the Tyndall pick. They didn't really have that many important needs to address. And they had only a handful of picks. So, in terms of a grade for Miami, I'm going to give them a B+. I think Tyreek Hill is going to help them as long as Tua Tagovailoa makes that next step. But I think Tyndall can come in and start for them, and as a combo, could be a nice depth piece for Miami. Next up is the Minnesota Vikings, who was moving and grooving throughout the draft in terms of where to pick in trades. 1st round, they didn't pick till 32. They took Lewis Cine, the safety from Georgia. 2nd round, they took Andrew Booth, the corner from Clemson, and Ed Ingram, the guard from LSU. 3rd round, they took Brian Asamoah, the linebacker from Oklahoma. 4th round, Akila Bevins, the corner from Missouri. 5th round, Eze Atamiwo, the defensive end from Minnesota, and Ty Chandler, the running back from North Carolina. 6th round, they took Vidarian Lowe, the tackle from Illinois, and Jalen Nailor, the wideout from Michigan State. And then the 7th round, they took Nick Muse, the tight end from South Carolina. So Minnesota, I think, reached on some guys and stole some guys. So there's a little combination of both. Wide receiver was a need I felt for them. Naylor, although, was somebody that was not in my top 280. They also needed interior line. I like Ed Ingram, but he was a reach. I felt they also needed a defensive end. The kid they drafted in the 5th round I had ranked 194. They took him at 165. So maybe 1 round too early for him. Linebacker, Asamoah, went a little too early, but I think he could potentially start for them long term. I love Andrew Booth, great pick, and Lewis Cine I thought was a nice pick as well. So for Minnesota, because of a couple missed picks I felt, or missed need picks, and some reaches, I'm going to give them a C+. I think if they didn't steal Booth in the 2nd round, then this grade would have been a super lot lower. Next up, a very interesting team this draft, the New England Patriots, who got my lone F grade among day 1 and day 2 picks that I usually like to do. In the 1st round, they took Cole Strange, the guard from Oklahoma or Chattanooga. 2nd round, Tyquan Thornton, the wideout from Baylor. 3rd round, Marcus Jones, the corner from Houston. They took in the 4th round Jack Jones, the corner from Arizona State. Pierre Strong Jr., the running back from South Dakota State. And Bailey Zappe, the quarterback from Western Kentucky. 6th round, Kevin Harris, the running back from South Carolina. Sam Roberts, the defensive tackle from Northwest Missouri State. And Chasen Hines, the guard from LSU. And in the 7th round, Andrew Stuber, the guard from Michigan. In terms of a grade for New England, we have to go over needs first. Wide receiver, Thornton, I think, can help them. But I don't know if he's going to start for them right away. Interior line, Cole Strange should have been a day 3 pick. My God. Linebacker, they failed to address that in the draft. Corner, I like Marcus Jones a lot. And Jack Jones was someone else who they drafted but was not in my top 280, amazingly enough. And the safety position they did not address either. New England, that I did not think was a great draft at all. They are getting a grade of a C-. They reached for Cole Strange. Jack Jones wasn't in my top list. Bailey Zapp's a backup quarterback. Why they draft him, I don't know. And in terms of the guys they drafted in the later rounds, Chase and Hines, they stole, I thought. But I just absolutely freaking hated their first round pick. That I had to punish them for that alone. And Andrew Stuber wasn't a bad pick either. But that's because of the drafting of Cole Strange in the first round is why their grade is so low. Next up is the New Orleans Saints. I'm giving them a grade of a B-. First round, they had 2 picks. At 11, they took Chris Olave, the wideout from Ohio State. And 19, they took Trevor Penning, the lineman from Northern Iowa. Second round, they took Alontae Taylor, the corner from Tennessee. 5th round, DeMarco Jackson, the linebacker from App State. And the 6th round, Jordan Jackson, the defensive end from Air Force. In terms of needs, they did not take a quarterback for long term. Wide receiver, they took Olave, which was really fun. They also took Trevor Penning to help address their offensive line. They took DeMarco Jackson, the linebacker, so they fill that lead as they go Jackson, but I had him ranked 233rd. He went 161. That's an issue. So I had him as a 7th round player rather than a 5th round player. And then Jordan Jackson, I had him ranked 257. He went 194. So he was also a 7th round projection that went in an earlier round in the 6th round. So that's where the Saints get the B-. New York Giants are next. They also get a B-. Yes, they had a wonderful first round. Wonderful. That's why they had to get a grade above a C+ for me. But there are some reaches, including their 2nd round pick, Wan'Dale Robinson, the wideout from Kentucky. They also had 2 other picks on day 2 with Joshua Ezeudu, the guard from North Carolina, and Cordell Flott, the corner from LSU. In the 4th round, they took Daniel Bellinger, the tight end from San Diego State. Dane Belton, the safety from Iowa. 5th round, Micah McFadden, the linebacker from Indiana. DJ Davison, the defensive tackle from Arizona State. Marcus McKeithen, the guard from North Carolina. And the 6th round, they took Cincinnati linebacker Darian Beavers. In terms of needs, I had running back from like a depth standpoint, a future starter standpoint, but they did not address that. Maybe they do end up keeping Saquon Barkley long term, which I don't think they will because this is a different regime. Tight end, they go out and get Bellinger, who I had ranked 161 as a 5th round guy. The Giants went and took him in the 4th round. They also needed a tackle to get Evan Neal. Bravo. Interior, Ezeudu. Bravo. Thibodeau was a slam dunk. The tackle, they didn't need a defensive tackle. But they took DJ Davidson from Arizona State, who I had in my top 280, but I had him as a UDFA. And they needed a linebacker. They took the kid from Cincinnati, Darion Beavers, who I had as a third-round selection. They took him in the 6th round. Job well done by the Giants. And corner, they took Flott out of LSU, which I felt was a bit of a reach at where they took him. So that's where the B- comes into play. The Jets also get a B-. Yes, they had a fabulous first round. You couldn't have asked for better if you were the Jets. First round, 3 picks. Ahmad Gardner, the corner from Cincinnati. Garrett Wilson, the wideout from Ohio State. And Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end from Florida State. Second round, they go with Breece Hall, the running back from Iowa State. Third round, they go with Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end from Ohio State. And the fourth round, they go with Max Mitchell, the tackle from Louisiana, and Michael Clemens, the defensive end from Texas A&M. They did not have picks in the 5th, 6th, or 7th rounds. Wide receiver, they take Wilson. Offensive tackle, they take Max Mitchell. I had Mitchell 210 on my list, 7th round guy. They took him in the 4th. They also addressed the pass rush in the first, so they come back up and get Jermaine Johnson. Defensive tackle, they did not address. Linebacker, they did not address. Corner and safety, they go with Sauce Gardner, and then they don't go with the safety. By getting those 3 A+ picks in the first round is why they avoid the C grade and get a B-. The Philadelphia Eagles, they get a grade of a B+. They had a tremendous draft weekend. Round 1, they only ended up picking once. They took Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle from Georgia. They trade the 1 pick to go get A.J. Brown, which was terrific. Second round, they go get Cam Jurgens, the center from Nebraska. Third round, the Kobe Dean, the linebacker from Georgia. 6th round, Kyron Johnson, the edge rusher from Kansas. And Grant Caltera, the tight end from SMU. In terms of needs, wide receiver, they trade for A.J. Brown. Come on. Who could do better than that? Edge rush, they take Kyron Johnson in the 6th round. And I had him as a 5th round player, so therefore, job well done for Philly. Another need was linebacker. They get Nakobe Dean, which was a huge steal. Another Philadelphia Eagles need was corner. Did not take a corner, and same for the safety, which they did not take. But the A.J. Brown trade combined with a couple of steals, they get the grade of a B+. The Pittsburgh Steelers had an interesting draft, to say the least. My grade for Pittsburgh was a C. There were important stuff that I think they failed to address. We'll get to that in a second. First round, they take quarterback Kenny Pickett from Pitt. Second round, wide receiver George Pickens from Georgia. Third round, DeMarvin Leal, the tackle from A&M, the defensive tackle, I should say. Fourth round, they take Calvin Austin, the third, the wideout from Memphis. 6th round, they took Connor Hayward, the tight end from Michigan State. 7th round, they go with Mark Robinson, the linebacker from Ole Miss. In the 7th round, Chris Aldakun, the quarterback from South Dakota State. They get a potential franchise guy with Pickett, or who they think is a franchise guy, I say. Wide receiver George Pickens and Calvin Austin. They got two really good ones right there. But my issue is that they failed to address their offensive line. That's why their grade is what it is. And then DeMarvin Leal, good pick. And they did not address the cornerback position. That's 3 missed needs. Although the good picks would cancel out for it, but offensive line's so important. Pittsburgh should have addressed that in the 4th round. But that's why they get a C rather than a B. The San Francisco 49ers, they get a B as well. San Francisco, they had no first-round picks. They had a pick in the 2nd round. They took Drake Jackson, the edge rusher from USC. 3rd round, they go with Tyrone Davis-Price, the running back from LSU, and Danny Gray, the wide out from SMU. 4th round, they go with Spencer Buford, the tackle from UTSA. The 5th round, they go with Samuel Wolbnack, corner from Toledo. 6th round, they go with Nick Zakelj, the tackle from Fordham. Kalia Davis, the defensive tackle from UCF. And Tariq Castro Fields, the corner from Penn State. In the 7th round, they go with Brock Purdy, the quarterback from Ohio State. In terms of needs, they didn't have many. Wide receiver, I like Danny Gray a lot. For a team like them, I think he could help. I had him as on 139 on my board. He went 105, so that's not that much of a difference right there. Interior of the offensive line, there's some guys that they can convert tackle to guard or whatever potentially down the road. That was a missed opportunity. Castro Fields, where they got him to address the corner position. I had him 95th on my board. He went 221. That's tremendous. And their other need I thought that was important was safety from a depth standpoint, but they did not go in that direction. So that's what lands them the B grade. The Seattle Seahawks, I give them a C. They had a lot of needs and failed to address some of their needs. Round 1, they take Charles Cross, the tackle from Mississippi State. 2nd round, they take Boy Mafe, the edge rusher from Minnesota. Kenneth Walker, the running back from Michigan State. 3rd round, Abraham Lucas, the tackle from Washington State. 4th round, cornerback Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati. 5th round, Salik Woolen, the corner from UTSA. And Tyreek Smith, the edge rusher from Ohio State. And then the 7th round, they go with wide receiver Bo Melton from Rutgers and wide receiver Tariq Young from Lenoir-Rhyne. In terms of need, they needed pretty much everything except for running back and wide receiver. They did not take a quarterback. They did not take a tight end. Abraham Lucas, I think where they got him was decent value. They did not address the interior, although they addressed the exterior of their defensive line. I like Boy Mafe. He will help. Tyreek Smith has been in some big games in his career. I had him ranked 220th, though, and they took him 158. Inside linebacker, they did not address. And then cornerback, Woolen is an interesting player. I had him ranked 81st. He went 153rd. Job well done from Seattle. And then Kobe Bryant, Coby, Kobe, is how he spells his name. He was 155th on my board. They took him 109. And then they did not address safety. So that's where Seattle's C comes into play. Some missed needs, but some good hits as well. Tampa Bay Buccaneers got a C+, and the plus is out of respect because they're the Bucs. I did not really love what they did. No first-round picks. Second round, they went with defensive tackle Logan Hall from Houston. Interior lineman Luke Gedke from Central Michigan. Third round, Rashad White, running back, Arizona State. Fourth round, Kate Otten, the tight end from Washington. Fourth round, Jake Camarda, the punter from Georgia. Fifth round, Zion McCollum, corner from Houston State. Sixth round, Keif, the tight end from Minnesota. And the seventh round, they went with Andre Anthony, the outside linebacker from LSU. In terms of needs, they took Gedke in the second round to help out the interior of their offensive line, which wasn't a bad choice for them there. Defensive end, they took Andre Anthony, but they took him as an outside linebacker. And then linebacker, they did not touch either. And by the way, Andre Anthony not in my top 280. Corner and safety, they took Zion McCollum, which is, I think, the funniest name of the entire draft. He was 163rd on my board. They took a 157, so good job there, but they did not address safety. Because they're the Bucs, I gave them a C+, and they just won the Super Bowl 14 months ago or whatever. Next up, the Tennessee Titans have 2 more to go. They get a C. I punished them because of the A.J. Brown trade, and they should have gotten more for A.J. Brown. First round, they take wide receiver Treylon Burks from Arkansas. Second round, Roger McCreary, the corner from Auburn. Third round, Nicholas Petit-Ferrer of Ohio State. And Malik Willis, the quarterback from Liberty. Fourth round, Hassan Haskins, the running back from Michigan. And Chigoziem Okonkwo, the tight end from Maryland. Fifth round, Kyle Phillips, the wideout from UCLA. Sixth round, Theo Jackson, the safety from Tennessee. And Chance Campbell, the linebacker from Ole Miss. In terms of needs, wide receiver, Treylon Burks, job well done there. Except they should have kept A.J. Brown. Tight end, they take Okonkwo. I had him 96 on my board. He went 143rd. So that was a steal for Tennessee. Petit-Ferrer, I like as a player. And they took him in the third round. But I felt that they overdrafted Petit-Ferrer a little bit, which wasn't a super bad thing. I gave them a B for that selection. Another need I thought they had to hit on was interior to the line, which they did not. They also needed a defensive tackle, did not go there. Linebacker, Campbell, interesting pick. He was not in my top 280. And then cornerback, they went with Roger McCreary in the second round. I gave them a B for that pick. But they get to C because of the missed needs and the trading of A.J. Brown. And last but not least, the Washington Commanders. My grade for them is a B-. Interesting draft for the Commanders, I thought. In the first round, they took wide receiver Jahan Dotson from Penn State. Second round, they took Fadarian Mathis, the defensive tackle from Alabama. Third round, Brian Robinson Jr., the running back from Alabama. Fourth round, Percy Butler, the free safety from Louisiana. Fifth round, Sam Howell, the quarterback from North Carolina. And Cole Turner, the tight end from Nevada. Seventh round, they take guard Chris Paul from Tulsa. And Christian Holmes, the corner from Oklahoma State. And in terms of needs, I thought Sam Howell in the fifth round was a steal, potential steal. He was so promising when he was younger in college, but his team wasn't good. Dotson, I thought they reached for in the first round for a receiver. Cole Turner, an interesting player. I had him ranked 191. They took him 149th. So maybe one round too early for Cole Turner. But that really wasn't a need anyway. Tackle, they did not address, but they went interior with Chris Paul. Linebacker, they didn't touch. And then corner, they went with Holmes, who was not in my top 280. So with a couple steals that I liked for them with some of the missed position grabs in terms of needs, I give Washington a B-. So there you have it for the draft grades. And now I'm going to do best picks from a value standpoint, which I define that in terms of how I had the player ranking in my draft rankings and the player rankings and the number selection overall they were picked at. All right, so the Arizona Cardinals, Marquise Hayes. Atlanta, Desmond Ridder. Baltimore, Isaiah Likely. Buffalo, Balin Spector. Carolina, Kalen Barnes. Chicago, Kyler Gordon. Cincinnati, Jeffrey Gunther. Cleveland, Isaiah Thomas. Dallas, Jake Ferguson. Denver, Greg Dulcich. Detroit, James Mitchell. Green Bay, Rasheed Walker. Houston, Christian Harris. Indianapolis, Bernard Raymond. Jacksonville, Dalvin Lloyd. Kansas City, Jalen Watson. Las Vegas, Thayer Munford. Los Angeles Chargers, Xander Horvath. Los Angeles Rams, Kyron Williams. Miami, Channing Tindall. Minnesota, Ty Chandler. New England, Chasen Hines. New Orleans, Chris Olave. New York Giants, Darian Beavers. New York Jets, Jermaine Johnson. Philadelphia, Nakobe Dean. Pittsburgh, Calvin Austin III. San Francisco, Tariq Castro Fields. Seattle, Tariq Woolen. Tampa Bay, Cade Otton. Tennessee, Chigoziem Okonkwo. And Washington, Sam Howell. So those are my picks for best picks from a value standpoint. Obviously, these are going to have different players in the spaces for best rookies when I do the NFL predictions show in the fall. So there you have it for the 2022 NFL Draft Recap Show. And I'll look back on this and see how I did down the road. Have a great day, everyone.